Well, first off, thank y'all for coming. My name is Mike Abel. My brother and I own the tackle shop that my dad started this location back in 1983. So as you can imagine, over the last 40 plus years, we've been doing a lot of stuff like this, bringing a lot of captains and really just like a lot of education, which I think is great. I love to do what he's getting ready to do tonight. Like I love to teach, and we try and do that, throughout the day, every day. And that's kind of one of the fun things is you get to talk about something we're so passionate about that we enjoy doing and have enjoyed doing for the last 30 years, but then get to attempt or to help y'all, when you come in the shop and either get a text or a picture a week later, 2 weeks later saying, hey, like, this so and so helped me. And so that's kind of the flip side of it is just being able to see it come full circle. But this is what we love to do. I mean, every employee downstairs, I mean, they're passionate about fishing. Um, so we're, one, really appreciative that you come down and do this. He's based out of McClellanville, so he's got that whole neck of the woods corner to himself. I appreciate y'all being here. I'll turn it over to my main man.
All right.
I appreciate you.
Thanks, Mike. All right, guys. Spring fishing. A lot of times I want to just bang my head on a wall. So, real quick. So about me before we get started. So I'm Stephen Fluke. Been guiding full time for about 2.5, 3 years. Worked some jobs on the side, but we're 100% fishing now since this past September. All in. So we do full-time charters inshore and fishing tournaments as well. So this year we're fishing the National Redfish Tour, the Power Pole Tour. Just got back from Florida last week. So we were down in Steenhatchee, Florida. That was epic. But still love fishing here. That's why I picked McClellanville to guide. So spring fishing. Where to start? So I wrote down 3 words: adapt, change, and overcome. If I could pick 3 words to describe fishing and my approach to spring, those are the 3 words that I picked. So, the water's constantly changing, water temperatures are constantly changing. So, for example, tonight we're getting 40 degrees tonight. We've had 70s all week. I saw 70 degrees yesterday when I took the boat out of the water. And now that's going to change again. So the water's constantly, temperatures and stuff are going up and down. So trying to stay on fish is difficult, even when I'm on the water every single day. So let's jump right into locating fish. I wrote down 2 B's: birds and bait. Whenever I'm looking for fish, I'm always looking for birds. So whether that's pelicans circling in the air or bait, you might see a little pogey or a little menhaden flick on the surface. You might look on the bank and see little shrimp flicking around and fish chasing those, or you might see a big mullet jump. Those are all signs that, hey, there's probably predator fish nearby. So perfect example. I show up to Florida 2 weeks ago, never been to Steenhatchee in my life, and I just show up and I've got to figure out how to catch perfect tournament fish in 1 week before a tournament. So first thing I do, I idle out, I start looking for mullet jumping on the bank, and I look for white egrets on the shore. I find some of those, bam, start catch redfish. So this stuff works. On Tuesday when I was in Florida, I got to fish with a friend of mine, Ryan Rickard. He won the Bassmaster Redfish Cup 2 years ago in Texas. The biggest piece of advice he gave me was that white egrets and redfish have the same diet. It was really interesting to hear that. I've always looked for those shorebirds already, but hearing him say, hey, I did a study on this, they all eat the same thing, makes it so much easier to find those fish. Also, guys, these notes I've got on my iPad, I can give you a business card and I can text all these to you when we're done if you like. So definitely take notes. Writing stuff down always helps you retain the information, but I can give you a card and I can text these out if you like when we're done, or I can airdrop them. So pelicans diving. So places I look for fish right now. So obviously locating fish is the most difficult thing this time of year. lures and baits. We're going to talk about all that stuff and any other questions you might have, but locating fish is the biggest factor. Once you locate them, figuring out how to catch them, for me, is a little easier than just finding them. So right now, so last week, 4 charters, most of the fish I caught were in my wintertime areas. So I'm still fishing in the very back of creeks, very, very back of creeks. So I fish in an 18-foot John boat. I go way the heck back where you almost can't go any farther. One spot I've got, we literally break tree branches out of the way and shimmy the boat through to get in. Okay, so I'm as far back as you can possibly get, and sometimes you get stuck, and that's okay. I like the outgoing tide, so lower water, especially all winter, and right now where we're kind of winter, we're kind of spring, we're in that in between. I like lower water. That high tide's been death for me. So the only incoming tide I did well on was Friday morning. So Thursday morning, I caught 3 fish for 4 hours, which was horrible for me for the morning. Thankfully, I had those clients all day, so we had a resurrection in the afternoon on the falling tide. But in that morning, I ran around a lot and couldn't get on anything. So Friday morning's charter, which was the same incoming tide, I said, I'm not moving. So I went to one creek inland, as far inland as I could get, and I sat there for 3.5 hours and caught fish every 10 minutes. And so, perfect example, I knew where some fish were, I stayed on them. And so, I wrote down, so intercoastal waterway. So I don't know where do y'all fish a lot? Where's your main area? Okay, so a little more south. Who else? Wando? Okay. Cool, awesome. Not a bad place to come. So I fish mainly from Isle of Palms north, all the way to Georgetown. I live in McClellanville, guide in McClellanville, but I'll fish all over the place. Fish down in Beaufort, Georgetown, wherever. But just find little creeks and then docks. Docks always hold fish. So with all this nasty weather we got, my charters this weekend coming up, we got rain and it's blowing 10 to 20 out of the north and the east. Horrible. And I was texting my guys, they still want to go. So I'm automatically going to fish deeper water, and I'm fishing structure, rocks, docks, deeper oyster bars for, bad, crazy weather, stuff like that. So another thing I wrote down to find fish are, where are all the crab pots? So where are the crabbers putting all their pots? So all winter, the pots were along the intercoastal and inland. Now all the crab pots are starting to scatter out closer to the ocean. So that's another thing. You keep an eye on those crab pots, and those will help lead you to the fish. Okay? And talk to your crabbers. So if you're at the boat ramp and you see a crabber taking in and out, talk to them. Those guys most of them are really friendly. And once you get to know them, they're a little intimidating at first. Get to know them a little bit. They'll really help you. They help me a lot. And you can get crab from them for cut bait for redfish. So it's a win-win. And then I wrote down pogies. So menhaden. Once you get a couple of these warm-ups like this, all the menhaden start coming back. I'll see menhaden flicking in the intercoastal sometimes in January and February on sunny warm-up days. So trout love menhaden and redfish too. So going into April, we're almost to April, menhaden is a big bait for me all April long. I throw a lot of menhaden. Bunker, menhaden, pogies, white bait. All of it. So I'll get into that right now. So mainly inshore, I'm throwing a pogie, menhaden, whatever you want to call it. Everyone calls it something different. On a cork, just because it makes it easier for clients to see a cork. I'll either throw them on a jig head like this, or I'll throw a cork. These are my favorite hooks. A 3/0 SSW from Owner. Right here, this exact hook. I catch bull reds on this, trout, everything. Tarpon on this little 3/0. I love these hooks. I've been using them for literally over 20 years with my dad. So I'm 28, but that's how long I've been using these hooks. I love them. So I'll run one of these hooks One split shot, about 10 inches down, and then the owner right here for my pogies. Okay? For my mud minnows and my shrimp, I'll just run a jig head. That's just a little ice strike, plain old jig head right there. Okay? Nothing fancy. And then, so back to pogies. Let me stay on pogies and then we'll talk about all the other stuff so I don't go back and forth too much. So when I'm fishing pogies, I'll either throw them with a cork or I like to free line them. Just a owner hook. No cork, no nothing. So leader, so 4 or 5 feet of fluorocarbon, 20 pound or 25 pound, straight to a hook, nose hook your pogie, throw them out. Now, a lot of guys down in Tampa, Florida and stuff, they like to chum with live bait. So you'll get a bat, put a couple live pogies in there and throw them out in your fishing spot. That'll get your redfish fired up. That's some guide stuff, but it works for everybody. So don't be scared to grab 2 or 3 live pogies out of your live well, throw them to your fishing spot, let them sit, and then throw a live one in there with a hook. They'll get crushed. So that's more April 1st and forwards when I'll start throwing live pogies for bait a lot. And so big trout, love those. I can't tell you how many big trout, 20-inch plus trout I catch on live pogies. And then bull reds start moving in right now, inshore. So as soon as all these pogies show up, your bull reds are right behind them. So starting anytime, maybe this week, I'm probably going to catch my first bull red of the season on a pogie, under a cork, or on a bottom rig or free line. Just fishing normal old intercoastal spots, holes, anything like that. There's not like a secret to that. It's just I'm inshore fishing, bull red shows up. So that's how I fish pogies, menhaden, all of that. So any questions on that before we keep moving on? So we're talking inshore, but I'll free line them offshore for amberjacks, cobias, anything. You could still catch fish on a free line bait. Now, you could throw a split shot. You can throw a little 1/4 ounce split shot on your line to get your bait down a little bit. But generally, that's a good question. Generally, I'm going to fish my free line baits in 2 to 8 feet of water in general. So got an oyster bar, a grass line, docks, stuff like that, or a point. I like to fish points. Really good to throw a live pogie around those. No, ask any question.
You say free line, you're just talking a jig head with a...
No jig head. So I thought, I did have one rigged up right here. This is a fun little rod right here. So I got my leader from the rod tip to here and a hook. That's it. That's free line. You nose hook the bait and you send them out.
You always have a leader? You don't go directly onto the...
I always go leader, yep. Okay. Always.
3 feet?
I run about 5 feet. It's a mental thing. I don't think it's necessary. I have some friends that run a foot of leader and jack them just as good as I do. I just like 5 feet because I feel like the fish won't see my line. And with fly fishing, I run a 9-foot leader. So all combined in my head, I settle on 5. Yeah, exactly. Normally I use 20, correct. 20 fluoro right here. I'll use any of these Seagars. These are my favorite. They're a little pricey, but if you get this spool, a little guide trick, lasts you longer because it's 200 yards. You won't run out as fast. So 20 or 25. And I'll catch bull reds on that too, inshore. You just got to play them well, and they won't pop off on you.
Is there any that was too shallow?
Not really. Now, right now, there you go. See? 15. You can run 10. If you're trout fishing, sometimes you'll run 8. Jamie Huff will run 8-pound fluorocarbon for speckled trout. I don't like that because if I catch a red, I'm probably going to bust them off. But anyway, as light as you can. What kind of rods do you like when you're running that light?
So I'm running, I got a couple of fish combos.
Kind of lighter action though?
Yeah.
Yep. So that way, There you go.
The 15 ties better for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the knots and everything. I'm relatively new at it.
100%. Yeah.
15 is the tie was better.
So 15, 12. I mean, experiment with it. I run 20 just because I don't break any fish off often. In the winter, I'll run 15 and won't generally break a lot of fish off. But oyster bars and stuff, I do like a little higher. Sometimes I'll run 30. If I'm fishing trees, like down trees with oyster bars on them, I'll run 40 or 50 pound fluoro sometimes. The redfish don't really seem to care. All right, let's move on. So let's finish out live bait, then we'll talk about artificials because I love artificials better. So we got live shrimp. If you want to catch some shrimp, go find a deep hole, 20 to 30 foot deep, and throw a taped net. I'm sure Mike's got a bunch in here. You'll throw your cast net, it'll sink to the bottom. Low tide's best for that, to catch your live shrimp. Sometimes Hadrill's carries live shrimp, so you just come buy some. Those I'll fish mainly on the popping cork right here with the jig head. So what I like to do is I'll pinch the tail of the shrimp off and then feed my shrimp on with no tail through, and my hook will come out the leg side of the shrimp. I should have brought one to show you. Does that kind of make sense?
So upside down, out the legs?
Yes, correct.
From the tail end?
Correct. Pinch off the tail. Here, let's find a fake one and just show you. 100%. That's why I do it. All right. So pinch your tail off, right? Gone. And then we'll go in and come out where all of his little legs are, you know, just kind of like that. And it'll sit like that. And then it's flicking. When shrimp flee, they flick like this. So it dies fast. So you're going to go through a lot of bait. But one, you got scent, you got extra scent in the water, and your shrimp's down there flicking. You got all kind of extra stuff going instead of just hooking a plain old shrimp that's alive with no scent. So exactly. Yep. I'll also fish shrimp free line. So on this past Friday on that trip where I told you I sat in a creek for 3 hours, we're throwing this little rod with a free line shrimp on it, right in a 6 foot deep hole in a creek. Free lining them. They wouldn't touch a shrimp on a jig head. They wouldn't touch a mud minnow on a jig head. They wouldn't touch an artificial. And that's spring fishing, where you want to bang your head on a wall. No. So when I'm free lining them, I'm either going to go through the head, like you just said. So I should have brought a lot. Didn't think about it. Sorry. You'll see a little black spot in his head. That's his brain. Don't hook there. Okay. You'll kill him. You either run it under it or right here. There's a little hard spot in the shrimp. Or what I've been doing is I hook them in the tail. You know that little hard part in the tail, right before the fins or whatever you want to call it. That's where I'll hook it. So I'll just kind of hook it like this, and then he'll swim all around. So you cast him out. You don't want to fish him on a tight line, a semi-tight line, and he'll swim around. You'll see your line jump. You won't feel it. You'll just see a little bloop in your line. That's your fish, real tight. Set the hook. That's not by feel. That'll all be watching your fishing line. Okay, that's shrimp. Or you can throw it on a bottom rig. I don't fish a lot of bottom rigs. I fish free lines, jig heads, stuff like that.
That's just a more natural presentation.
Yeah. Well, and shrimp in general, speckled trout, especially trout, suspend a lot, and so I feel like that bait kind of keeping it in the waterway and not just sitting on the bottom. Now reds obviously are bottom feeders, so having a bottom rig for redfish is not a bad idea. But that's why I throw the jig head on a cork. So the cork rig, guys. Sorry, I'm jumping around. Run your leader long enough to where this is bouncing on the bottom. Okay, I forgot to mention that. So if the water is 6 foot deep, your leader should be like 5.5, almost 6 foot long. So your jig head is dragging on the bottom if you're targeting redfish. All right. Little pro tip to save some money: There's no need retying all this leader every time. So if I'm fishing deeper, if I want to make this longer, I'll just cut here, do a little line to line, and add another piece right here. Okay, it's not the end of the world. I do it all the time. Yeah. Yep.
I was just going to ask the same thing. What do you think about adjustments?
I don't personally use them unless I'm tarpon fishing. Generally, I like these. These ones are really heavy duty, and I don't have any issues. And I don't like bright ones. I like the paint to be worn off. Okay, that's a middle thing. I feel like this spooks fish less, or I'll get more. I don't know, but that's just some old nonsense, superstitious shenanigans. All right.
I got a question.
Yeah, man.
When you're freelining,
Yep.
are you casting up and then letting it come down?
Yes.
The side?
100%. Yeah, you don't cast down current. None of this stuff we're talking about, you're going to cast down current, let it sit, unless you're throwing a bottom rig. Everything we're doing, I cast up current, let it come. Great question.
But you're not letting it. Are you letting it come past the boat, like to a?
I'll let it drift. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I'll set up. So let's say this is my boat, and this is our shore. So I'll keep the boat out here. I'm going to cast up to here, and I'm going to let my bait drift all the way down to here. Right when it gets down here, I'll reel it back in and recast. With everybody, all my clients. Even if I run 3, I'll run 2 on the bow, 1 back here. Everybody casts up. We all drift. Everything. Yep, everything.
How long do you keep the same bait? You change it out frequently, or?
As frequent as possible. Once it's dead or doesn't look good anymore, as long as I'm not running low on bait, it's going. Now, if you're 3 hours in and you're about out of bait, dadgummit, you're going to run that thing till mud minnows, I'm sure a lot of us have fished with those. Those are a staple around here. I love them. I have some sitting in the boat with no aerator. They'll last like that for a while, as long as that water doesn't heat up too hot. So look at that, my man. Home bait station going. So yeah, you can catch your own. They always have them here at Hadrill's.
How long will they live with an aerator?
Oh man, a long time. So I'll say this, not quite, I don't know if I'm proud of this, but just to tell you how long they live. So I left some minnows in a bucket for about 2.5 months last winter. Didn't know they were in there. Came back and they were still alive. There's a couple missing, but with no aerator. So nothing. Yeah. So
only in the winter.
yes. Yep.
They slow down.
So yeah, they'll die faster in the summer. Everything does. But
We're out in Columbia way itself, mud minnows.
Seawee outpost.
Do they?
I probably bought them all though. No, it's real easy to catch your own too. But we'll say that's a whole other deal. I made some Instagram or YouTube videos on that, so you can check that out. All right, crab. That's a staple around here. So peeler crabs. So the crabs are going to shed their shells coming up soon. So if you see in the restaurant soft shell crab, that's about to start taking off. Probably at the full moon coming up in the end of March and going into April. So a lot of the fish, mainly redfish, are going to dial in on that. And you won't be able to catch redfish on anything but crab. So write that down. End of March, going into April, crab. So go see your crabber, the one I was talking about, making friends with. Give them a 20, see what they'll do for you. And or you can go to a seafood store. I don't know. I get them from the local dudes. So cut crab, that's when you quarter it up, get some scissors, cut them up into little chunks, and that's where you're going to want to fish a bottom rig for your cut crab. I just rigged one up. This is a little stiffer rod, mainly for bull reds and tarpon, but for a bottom rig, I'm just going to run a little 1/2 ounce to a 1.5 ounce lead. This is a Carolina rig, guys. Pretty simple. Swivel, a foot a leader, 6 inches, whatever. You know, you can vary that. And then you can run a circle hook. It's generally best so you don't gut hook fish. This is a 4/0 owner Mutu light. They got them down there. That's where I always get on the hooks. You run a 5/0, any bigger size like that. And this is the same rig.
Is this for reds?
Yep, redfish. Same rig I'll run for bull reds starting in April. So this is where I'll do one live menhaden on here, nose hooked, and then I'll chunk another menhaden, where I'll cut the head and the tail off and take that chunk and stick it on the same hook. All right, so I've got a live pogie and a cut pogie on the same hook. Why? I've got scent and I've got vibration, flash, and sound going, because that live one's just down there flicking and flacking because it can't swim anywhere. Okay, the bull reds will destroy that. I don't know if I've ever fished it and not caught a bull red when doing that. So that's a tried and true method. That's an owner Mutu Light.
Got a question on the crab.
Yeah.
Heard it both ways, but keep the top shell on them when you quarter them up or pull it off.
Any way you want. I cut up some claw and throw it on there. They're not too picky.
For like a pinfish, tear them up.
That's the game you're going to play.
But you keep the top on?
I personally do.
Yeah.
And once all that falls apart, just slap some meat on there. I don't fish a lot of crab, though. I tend to fish artificial crabs, which we're about to get into. I can't stand soaking dead bait on the bottom. It drives me crazy. But that's a personal problem. Unless I'm targeting bull reds, I'm probably not going to fish bottom rigs with bait.
When you're doing that up at the falls, like I do that in the harbor out here.
Yeah.
Like where do you like more like inlets up there, or where are you?
Holes in the rivers, in the creeks. Yep. That's about it. Anywhere from 6 foot deep to 40 foot deep.
In the creeks?
Mm-hmm.
That's for reds?
Mm-hmm. For bull redfish.
Bull red.
Yeah.
In the creeks, not in the waterway, in the creeks.
Creeks.
Everything.
There's creeks. Some are rivers, so they're a little bit bigger. Here, we'll pull the map real quick.
You find them on your depth finder?
Depth finder, charts. Get you a hotspot chart. Guys, the biggest thing I can ever tell you, they're $25. Get you a hotspot chart of whatever area you're fishing, and there's 100 spots on there. And even if it's not 100% correct, it's going to put you in the general area that you can find fish. All right, that's a...
It's called hotspot, right?
Yeah.
So, website?
I don't know if it's a website. They probably got them here. Yep. That is, I can't, anytime I go somewhere new, I buy one. I mean, first thing. Now, but the depths aren't accurate, but they are on there. All right, so here's McClellanville. Hopefully everyone can see. We'll get a little closer. Okay. So you can see here's a main river right here, right? There's a main river there. There's a river flowing into here. All the main bodies of water, okay? You've got, let's see. Let's do one over here. So if you put it at Buck Hall, you got Harbor River right here. Runs to there, okay?
What is that you're looking at?
This Google Earth.
That's Google Earth?
Yep, Google Maps, all of it. I use this a lot. That's why I bought the iPad. I put an iPad thing on my boat and I run off this a lot of times. You got all the stuff down this way, around Isle of Palms, all the inlets. You got Dewey's Inlet, all of that stuff. You can check all those for deeper holes. You're probably gonna find bull reds in there. That's when I'm gonna fish bottom rigs, okay? For bull reds. All right, let's keep moving. Yep.
So when you find a hole
Yep.
in a creek and you got the tide, let's say it's coming out.
Yep.
You going past it and then
Correct.
passing into it?
Yep. Well, I'm gonna drop. I'm just gonna do a little toss and let my baits drop back into it. That's why I'm fishing bottom rigs.
You want to be right in the bottom?
I want my baits in the bottom of the hole.
Okay.
Now, if I don't catch fish there, I'm gonna move. So I'll probably sit it for 15, 20 minutes. If I'm not getting a bite, I'm gonna trolling motor up, spot lock, and hit the front part of the hole, and then try the back part of the hole. So you try all over the place.
Quick question.
Yeah, you're good.
What's the difference between bull reds and regular red?
So the number is arguable, but a bull red could be 30 inches and up or 40 inches and up. We're talking about the adults.
Okay.
So they tend to migrate.
Still redfish, period.
Yes,
Okay.
still redfish.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, but we're talking about the adults versus, the creek fish. I call them creek fish. A creek fish could be 10 inches to 30 inches.
What's the size here? Catchable size? Is it limited?
Oh, a keeper.
Yeah,
Oh,
keeper.
15
Sorry.
to 23 inches. Yep. But redfish, if possible, it's good to throw them back because they do live in the same area for a couple years before they migrate offshore. Okay. Cast nets. Let's move on. I want to talk about artificials. I wrote down a lot of stuff.
One quick,
Yeah,
squid,
absolutely.
Do you use squid?
I personally don't. Not inshore. Now, I do know some friends I go to church with. They're older, and they say, "Hey, man, no hate. Try squid." I haven't. Now, I do catch squid in my cast net inshore, so I don't doubt that redfish don't eat them.
I mean, but other species.
I'm sure they do. I just don't use it, just because. What are those egrets feeding on? They're feeding on worms, shrimp, little bait fish, stuff like that. So that's personally what I'm going to throw. But again, I wouldn't cross it off your list. Still a possibility. There you go. Are you successful with it?
Yeah.
So stick with it. Yeah, no. I'm not going to tell you not to or anything like that. If it works, keep doing it. Like, don't throw anything you know out the window. Like this, if any of this helps, add it to your arsenal. If it doesn't,
Before you go to artificial,
yep.
On minnows,
Mm-hmm.
I've got the tank right on that.
Yeah.
I'm not catching a lot on minnows, and I just wonder what your.
Do you try them like year round?
I have throughout the year.
Huh.
And so, surprisingly, the most catch I've had on them was down in Beaufort.
Huh.
I caught more trout on mud minnows
Yeah.
Carolina rig near structure. All I was catching.
So when I was preparing this, I checked my journal from last year just to go back and look to get refreshed on little tips and stuff. So last April, there was a 3-day period, 3 days in a row, where they were locked in on minnows. We were catching 25 to 40 reds a day on mud minnows. So again, for me, these are all the rods I bring on a charter. Normally rigged like this, to where we're throwing everything till we get on a pattern. It's because one day they might eat shrimp, the next day they might be eating minnows, blah, blah, blah. So,
And how do you hook your minnows?
okay, good question. So the minnows, personally, I tail hook them through the meat, and I'll run 2 on 1 hook. I normally don't run just one unless they're really big. So if they're tiny ones, sometimes the tiny ones do really good. I'll put 2 on the same hook, and then they're down there just going like this. The redfish nail that crap. They can't stand it. Mm-hmm. Yep, I tail hook them because again, now they die fast, and you can't let them sit in the current. You got to keep drifting them, but they're just going. Yeah, they'll crush it. Okay, moving on. All right, we talked about bull reds. Big trout. So your new moons and your full moons starting now. So we got a full moon coming up in a week or two. I can almost guarantee you I'm going to catch a big trout on that day. Every single time. It's from now all the way through October. Your new moons, your full moons, that's when you're targeting those big trout, 20 inches and up. And that's when we're going to throw our Paul Brown lures. I love these things. You can see how chewed up this thing is. This is a softine Paul Brown. If I can get it off of here. These are fun to throw. These are kind of a West Coast, like a Texas style bait, but I absolutely love to throw them. Right there, okay? These guys, they're soft, they bend, they got wires in them, and they suspend. So you cast it out, and it just kind of goes like this, and it flutters. You give it a twitch, so it goes like that, and then it flutters down a little bit. Trout love these. Big trout do. I don't catch a lot of small 15-inch trout on these. So yeah, those are really good. The Paul Browns, and then you can bend the back of it. You can bend it down, and that'll help stop it. And you can change all kind of stuff. You can give them little bends and stuff. So check those out. And then topwater is huge. I love topwater fishing. If I could only throw an artificial, I would just throw topwater the rest of my life. My favorite is a Rattle skitterwalk right here. So just down in Steenatchee, Florida, I was catching tail and reds on topwater. 8-pounders on topwater. It was awesome. In a foot of water. They were destroying this thing. That little guy right there. Chrome and black. This one's called a silver mullet, I believe, is this model. That smokes fish, trout and redfish. Will destroy this thing. Little pro tip, upgrade your hooks. These are the standard hooks. I haven't changed them yet. But if you're targeting redfish, get some Gamakatsu 2X EWG trebles so you don't bend these out. The reds won't bend out those Gamakatsu hooks. A Rapala Skitterwalk. I think this one's is another good model that I throw for trout. Is the pink, hot pink. I've got one in here somewhere.
You said silver mullet before. The silver mullet or skitter, or is that the color?
Skitterwalk's the model.
Okay.
Silver mullet is the color.
And is there something similar to that we don't have to swap the hooks out?
They do have a saltwater model
Okay.
that does come with beefier hooks, but it's a lot bigger. They're hit or miss. This model, I just do the best on. Again, pick those confidence baits. Every person's going to have those baits that they're like, man, it's my bait, right? For you, it's squid. That's your bait. If it works, don't change it. So yeah, Topwater, starting now. Topwater, Topwater, Topwater. Mornings, evenings, and then all through the day. Even if it's bright sun, you can throw Topwater all day sometimes and smoke them all day long. Trout and redfish.
What would make you think, let me try Topwater right now in the middle of the day?
If you see fish busting, if you see raining bait, it's like if you see a bunch of minnows jumping all of a sudden, right? They're not just randomly jumping, there's something chasing them. Or if you see a mullet jump on the bank, anything. Topwater's never bad to just try. And I just love, who doesn't want to see a fish destroy a topwater on the surface? Like, it's freaking epic.
How do you work your Topwater?
So these, I'm going to walk the dog. Excuse me. So twitch, 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 and my bait's going bloop, 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 bloop. I think I made a YouTube on it. Just check out my YouTube. If not, I'll throw one up there in a week or two. And then for trout, I like to pause. All right, so if you watch any bass fishing, Roland Martin has YouTube videos on this. It's old school. Cast your topwater out, let it sit till all the ripples go away. So cast your bait out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'll start to work it. A lot of times, most of my trout are going to hit before I even walk the dog. They're going to hit it right when it lands, okay? And then if you miss a trout, so if a trout comes up, blows up on it, and they miss it, keep walking a little bit and then pause. So I like to give it like 2 or 3 pops and let it sit again. And almost every time I'm going to catch that trout. That trout's going to come back and hit it. Okay, so redfish, a little different. Redfish, you're going to walk it real steady. Don't pause for redfish, okay? Keep it going. Even if a redfish hits it and misses it, do not stop. Keep going. Pop, pop, pop. They're going to come back and get it normally, okay? That's a good color. I like these too, the mirror mullet from Mirror Lure. These are awesome around here. It looks like a freaking finger mullet. And then I really like the Yozuris. That's such a killer color when you're fishing brackish water. Kind of that golden black. It's another good popping bait. That one's kind of a pencil popper. I'm not going to get into different topwater baits, but you walk the dog with all these, okay? And then this, I like the gold, orange, black back. Another good color for muddy, dirty, nasty water. Right there, okay? Great bait.
Sounds like one of my old largemouth bass.
100%. Yep. If you dig through my tackle box right here, you're going to find all kind of bass baits I catch redfish on. And then, I forgot, I got to talk about these. That's a Catch 2000 from Mirror Lure. It's kind of a subsurface walk the dog bait. So it doesn't really sink down to 2 feet. It kind of sits under the water, right under the surface. I catch a lot of redfish on this. Redfish will destroy this bait. Sight fishing them. Catch 2000. And that's one of my favorite colors. I think it's called Tiny Trout. With that, it's a green silver with the specks on it. I love that. As you can see, look, I've got another one there. I've got a Mirrodine right there. Once you find a favorite color, I don't want to have 10,000 colors. I want confidence colors. So if I find a color that works, I'd rather have 10 baits in the same color. Because eventually I'm going to catch a fish on it. All right.
Throwing Topwater tournaments?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Almost every single tournament we're throwing Topwater, and especially in practice. So when I was down in Steenhatchee, first couple days, I'm throwing a Topwater and I'm just trolling motor on speed 5, ripping, covering water, because eventually I'm going to find a fish to blow up on it, and I don't really want to catch them in a practice for a tournament. I just want to know where they are so I can go back in a tournament and catch them. So yeah, Topwater's awesome, awesome, good search bait. So if you're fishing a new area, tie Topwater on and just start pounding the banks, because you're going to find fish eventually if it's the right time of year. Now, I wouldn't throw this in January. All right, don't throw Topwater in January. You're probably not going to catch fish on it. You might, but starting now all the way through November, you're going to catch fish on top into December. Yeah, through December 20th or so, that's kind of when my Topwater bite's over.
Middle of the day too.
Oh yeah.
The popular is sun's full up right.
Last March on the 27th, I told you to check my journal from last year. Caught fish on Topwater all day. She came with me and filmed some. Yep, all day. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, bright sun, no clouds in the sky. And then last May, we had a cloudy day, Topwater all day. We caught 15 trout over 20 inches on Topwater, and I don't know how many reds. Those were clients. That wasn't just, I didn't even get to fish. I just got to film it all. Okay. Tarpon, we're not talking about them, but you might start to see some if you're out in Bulls Bay. Sometimes we'll see some in April. You won't see a lot, but you'll see a couple trickle. Start moving up. So keep an eye out for those. Soft plastics. Here's all my soft plastics I carry every single day. Right here. All right. And then there's another box on my boat with more. Okay. We're going to make this simple. So I got some right here. These are Mike's. Z-Man kicker crabs. That's what I caught all my fish on in my tournament 2 Saturdays ago in Florida. Okay. We got a top 20 finish on this bait. And then in September of last year, we got a 2nd place in Beaufort on this bait.
This is also again for reds.
Redfish. I don't catch a lot of trout on these, mainly reds. Reds freaking crush these. All right, so really cool. I have one rigged up. Let me find it real quick. Right here. All right, so there's a new tool called a rattlesnaker from Z-Man, and you can put rattles in these things now. All right, so you can kind of see here. We'll just pass this around. Yep. There, pass it around, shake it, and you can hear it. All right, this guy right here. Okay, you can put a rattle in all of your Z-Man baits, or any bait for that matter. That's game changer. Yep. So there's a little rattle right there. Okay. You can't really hear it from here. Yes. Yep. So you stick the needle in. I'm going to post a video. I just filmed one today with this. Not for Z-Man. Yeah. Oh, this is game changer. That helped us in that tournament because the water was chocolate. I mean, you couldn't see a foot under the boat. And then Procure, I don't have any with me. He's got a pile of it down there. Procure on every single soft plastic I throw. All right, Procure is just a gel scent. Blue crab, mullet, shrimp, it doesn't really matter what flavor. I just put scent on there, period. Very, very, very important. All right, so we got the kicker crabs, and then any little bait like this, just a little fluke style bait, okay? This is a Streaks 3.5 inch right there. It's like a little glass minnow. All right, you're going to see tons of fry in the water. You're going to want to throw this to mimic the bait. I like to rig these on the Finesse Texas Eye. All right, it's a little light wire hook. Caught 32-inch reds on these hooks. Just lighten your drag up, you'll be fine. Okay, right there. And then Ned rigs. I'm a huge Ned rig guy. I catch redfish and trout on Ned rigs year round. These are the Slim Swims, tiny little bait. Right there. That tiny little bait. Catch 30-inch reds on this stuff. And trout and everything else, okay?
With the rattler in there?
No. Yeah, you can't really put a rattle on that one. But yeah. Those again, I'll rig on the Finesse Texas Eye right here. All right, and then bigger baits for your big fish. So, all or I mean for your big trout. So if I'm specifically trying to catch a big trout on the new moon or the full moon, like we talked about, I'm going to throw these. I love this bait right here. Slam Shady or the Beer Run color rigged on the Texas Eye 1/4 ounce. You're shaking your head. Sorry. Go ahead.
How do you on the paddler?
Yep.
How do you handle that one on a tree? I've got some, you know, the paddle tails. I got to figure out, but that one acts a little different in the water. How do you?
So generally I'll do a slow, steady retrieve, pretty much this pace, and then I'll give it a hop, and then I'll let it fall. I'll hop, pause, keep reeling. Hop, pause, keep reeling. And the trout, mainly for big trout. I don't really throw those a lot for anything else. That is, Stephen Fluke wants a big trout. We're throwing that, or a Paul Brown, or a Topwater, or a live menhaden. So, all right, we got 12 minutes till 7. That about covers what I wrote down. I wrote this down. Your boat's going to look like a Bass Pro's boat with all the rods and baits on it. That's a 1/0, I believe. Yeah, you can see it. Now, sometimes I'll bend them. Sometimes I'll bend them with my pliers when I'm taking it out of a fish. But generally, I've never broke a fish off on that. I've caught some 15-pound reds on those, big old boys.
Running those on all the baits?
So I run the main 3/0 1/4 ounce Texas Eye on all the bigger baits. So like your crabs.
That's the one that has like the articulated.
Yes.
You don't run any of the straight shank.
If I'm fishing mud bottoms or anything like that, then I will just run a swim bait eye, so a straight shank. But man, almost every single charter, even when I'm personally fishing, I'm running those because they're weedless. You can't get them.
Yeah, I like them. I just didn't know. I got a bunch of the other ones.
So like I'll run those, but I'll burn through these so fast because I'm fishing oyster. I'm always fishing cover. And then other baits for trout like that smokes trout, big baits. So if you're trying to catch a big trout, definitely throw a big bait. Not necessarily for redfish, but for big trout. I love big trout fishing. All right, guys. Yes. So oyster bars, rocks, docks, trees. Okay. Cover. So like Saturday, we got a north or a northeast 10 to 20. I've got 5 guys coming in for a bachelor party. They don't want to cancel, so I'm gonna go fish some trees that are in the water and that are 10 feet deep, and I'm gonna go fish docks probably the whole day. And I've already know that because I'm gonna catch fish doing that. I'm not gonna catch fish out on the flats if it's blowing 20 out of the north and it's raining. I'm borrowing a boat for that trip. Normally I run 3 guys on my boat. Yeah. So, another thing. So bull reds, I just thought of this. When I'm targeting bull reds, I like those rising tides starting around May. In May, I like a nice afternoon rising tide, and I'll fish till dark. That's when I'll absolutely crush the bulls with the pogies that I was telling you about. When you put a live and a dead pogie on the same hook.
You like the outgoing tides
for creeks, creek mouths, all that stuff. Yep. Now, that's all going to change. So starting April, the rising tide's going to start to get good probably. But right now, when we're still in this like warm up, now it's going to get cold again. The falling tide, especially a later falling tide, is going to be better because the water is going to be a lot warmer. So here's a really good perspective for you. So in McClellanville, it's going to be different for everywhere, but that's where I fish the most. On mainland, where I put my boat in, the water was 68 degrees. When I drive out almost to the ocean, which is about 5 miles, water was 62. So the water is going to be a little warmer by mainland with the falling tide. It's going to warm up faster. I don't really have the science for that, but I just know from going. So, all right, guys, questions?
What about you said like the common trout on the new moon,
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get out of the flow, or are you just
I'm fishing flats. Yep. For big trout, for big flats, I'm fishing flats for big trout. I don't even know. I think I just twisted all that up. I'll still fish flow. I'll still fish creeks, points. I love a good point with current ripping by it. It's gonna fire everybody up. I like current. When I get these trickle tides like we're gonna have in a little bit, where it's a half moon and the water's barely moving, that's tough fishing sometimes, unless it's the winter. But in the spring, the more current, the merrier for me. Now it's gonna dirty the water up a little bit, but that's a mental thing. You just gotta get past that. Fish are gonna feed anyway. Do run around and find clean water, or the cleanest water. So I might run 20 minutes north or 30 minutes south until I find cleaner water, whatever's going to be cleanest, especially for trout. Reds don't seem to care as much, but if you're targeting big trout, 20 inches and up, you want good, clean water. And even if you run 10 minutes, you can run around in 10 minutes and find clean water anywhere normally. So, yeah.
You mentioned mullet.
No, I didn't. Because they're not really, you can throw mullet. I don't throw a lot of those till about June. It's kind of like, starting around June. Yep, personally.
Where do you find that area? Are they more likely to find them in the harbor than I am?
You'll find them in right now I'm finding them in the creeks.
You are?
Yep.
So they're going to be up in the Wando already?
Warming up. I have personally never ever fished the Wando. Okay. So I don't want to sit here and tell you, oh yeah, and fill your ear full of nonsense. See, there you go. Take it from him.
I saw mullet on the Wando 6 days ago. First one I've seen you jumping.
There you go.
You just
Big ones.
Snagged them with treble?
Cast nets.
Cast
Yep.
oh.
Cast net. Now I posted a video on social a couple weeks ago. I went all the way to the very back of a creek and I dip netted with my landing net. I mean, countless mullet like that big. But I don't use those for bait unless I'm tarpon fishing. So we call them little creek bait. They're like that. They're small. Peanuts. Thank you. Like that. Literally that size. That's why this is a really good bait. Yeah, they'll come up and flick on the surface. You'll see a little flick. You can hear them. If you listen and it's quiet out. But they're good. They're really good bait. Yeah. So now it's backwards for you. But yeah. They're piled right in front of Isle of Palms Marina. Oh yeah. Yeah, if you're around that area, yeah, it's loaded, dude. Or you just run a little north, you'll find them. There'll be schools. Look for pelicans diving. Always. And now for menhaden, I like that right when the sun hits the horizon, starts to come up, it'll be best. It's hard to catch them at night. So like I'll get them. So if I'm picking my clients up at 7, I'll catch my pogies at 6:50 because those are bad. Those are hard to keep alive. So I run freshwater nonstop, and I run an aerator at the same time. And in the hot summer, I put ice in my live well. All of that combined, I can keep them going for about 6 hours. And don't overpack your live well with bait. So if you're fishing menhaden, you don't. So if you got a 10-gallon live well, you only want maybe 30 in there. And you're going to just go catch fresh ones after that. Make sense? If not, they all die. You'll figure it out. You'll kill them all one time, and then you'll, all right, let me do a little less, and then you'll have the perfect number. All right, guys. Any other questions? That it? I have and tried it for a couple times, and I said no more. I lost a lot of fish on that. So, trebles.
I switched mine and then I lost the damn lure. So
Yeah. Personally, I like treble hooks. They do tear up fish, unfortunately. But yeah, they do. But I deal with it because I don't have fish pull off. The worst thing for me is client hooks a 20-incher and comes off like hurts.
anything we gotta know about putting the rattles in the baits?
Here, we'll just do one real quick to show you. We'll find one of mine. We'll just do this one again. So punch a hole in it. So keep it together like this. You want to find a thicker part of the bait. Obviously, if it's real thin, you won't be able to get your rattle in there. So shove this in there. Now with this Elastec, you got to push it in there pretty hard. Okay. So get it in there real hard. And then that pulls out. So you got a little hole right there. Get your little rattle out of here. And you can do this in any of your regular paddle tails. So you can put one in these bigger ones. And this is stuff that like everybody else is probably not going to be doing this. These are the little itty bitty things that you can add that's going to make you catch more fish. So stick it in there, push it in, pull it out, and your rattle's in there. Simple. Really, this thing's game changer. Yep. So that's that.
So when you retrieve your kick trap, how are you doing it?
Good question. So I fish these a lot of different ways. So I'll cast it out right there. I always, you want your rod up here at about 10. Don't ever have your rod down here like this. You can't feel anything. So rod's up here. Rod will go from here to about there. So about 10 to 11. You don't want your rod at 12 because you can't set the hook. 10 to 11 is that sweet spot. And then I like to do a nice slow retrieve and then pause and let it sink. Think of a crab on the bottom. Crabs aren't like ripping super, super fast through the water. They're always kind of just going like this. And if you go to Florida and you just see them kind of floating through the water, like in Tampa Bay, where the tarpon are feeding on them, they're still just moving slow. They're just kind of like this. And that's why I love this exact bait, this crab bait, because it does that. With this 1/4 ounce head, this is my favorite weight for this bait. It's not too heavy and it's not too light. It's heavy enough to get the bait down, but it's not too heavy to where you got to reel it too fast. It's just perfect. A 3/16, a little too light in my opinion. You can fish this in heavy current. So cast it up current, just like I mentioned earlier, and you can almost let it drift and just reel your slack. You only have to jerk the rod and nothing.
So you're using a 1/4 inch weight with
1/4 ounce.
quarter
Right here,
yeah.
this exact rig. So I think right here, these guys.
Oh, that has weight on it.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, these are awesome, man. These are game changer. This is a Texas rig all in one. Yeah, right there. Yep. Connected for you and everything. Now sometimes I'll give it a pop. So I'll give it a little poop and let it sit and then keep reeling. But like when we were fishing them in Florida just now, we had a 25-mile-an-hour wind. We were fishing a wind-blown bank and the tide was coming in all together. Current was ripping. So my dad, who's my tournament partner, he's like, I'm going to try it. I'm just going to fish it like live bait. So he literally left it on a slack line, casted it into the current, let it drift in on a slack line into an oyster bar and started jacking fish. Didn't do anything to it. So it's just swimming around down there with the rattle. Because think about it, when a crab, it's clicking its claws. So if you ever go get a live blue crab, they make sounds with their claws. That's why I think that rattle's such a game changer. And again, don't forget to put scent on these things. Procure. Every soft plastic you throw, big old dose of Procure. Because then you got sight, scent, and sound. Always. Don't just put a plastic on here and send it. It might work, but you're going to catch twice as many fish you put scent on there.
You do that every time you reel it in and throw it back out again?
Okay, so on a charter or if I'm fun fishing, no. I'll put it on a couple times a trip for scent. Now that last tournament we fished, we put scent on every single cast. Every single cast we reapplied. It's very tedious, but it was necessary. Now, on a normal day of fishing, I'm not doing that. That's ridiculous. But that's what we thought we needed to do well in tournament. So
I think I already got your scent for reds. Trout care or not?
Trout care, but I think it's way more important for redfish. Because like the Paul Browns I was showing you, like I don't put scent on this stuff. That's all sight and vibration. It gives off a little vibration in the water. But yeah, good thing. Now, if you're fishing soft plastics, I do always put scent on them, even for trout. But yeah, like I said, miradines, great baits for trout and redfish all spring. Why? Because it looks like a pogey. Okay, so just remember, whatever artificial you're throwing, which again, if I have an option, I'm always going to pick artificials over live bait, even for charters. Mimic your prey, or I mean, yeah. So like if you're fishing this, think of a pogey in the water. If you're fishing a topwater, think of a mullet in the water. Blah blah blah. You got the point. All right, guys. Thanks for coming. Hope that helped.